I haven't bought vegetables at the grocery store in over a year, and my food bill has dropped by hundreds of dollars every month. The secret? 7 incredibly productive plants that grow so abundantly I can't keep up with the harvest. These aren't exotic or difficult crops. They're common vegetables that most gardeners overlook or grow incorrectly. But when you grow them the right way, they produce so much food that buying vegetables becomes completely unnecessary. Before I reveal these 7 game-changing plants, hit that like button if you're tired of expensive grocery store produce. Subscribe to this channel for food growing strategies that actually save you serious money. And ring that notification bell so you never miss our money-saving garden guides. Your path to food independence starts right now. Alright, let's dive into the 7 plants that eliminated my grocery store vegetable runs forever. Here's the problem with most vegetable gardens. People grow crops that either produce very little for the space they require, or they produce all at once and then you're overwhelmed with more than you can use. Or they grow things that are cheap at the store anyway, so you're not really saving meaningful money. The 7 plants I'm sharing today are different. They're incredibly productive, meaning massive yields from small spaces. They produce continuously or over extended periods, giving you fresh harvests for weeks or months, not just one big harvest. And they're expensive at the grocery store, so growing them saves real money. These crops have transformed my garden from a hobby that produced occasional vegetables into a genuine food production system that feeds my family year-round. We're talking about plants that produce 50, 70, even 100 pounds of food per season from just a few square feet of garden space. That's grocery store replacement level production. So let's break down each plant, why it's so productive, how to grow it for maximum yield, and what you need to know to succeed. Plant number 1, cherry tomatoes. The continuous producer. Cherry tomatoes are hands down the most productive vegetable you can grow. A single plant, just one plant, can produce anywhere from 50 to 100 pounds of tomatoes over a single season. That's not an exaggeration. That's standard production for healthy, indeterminate cherry tomato varieties. The key is choosing indeterminate varieties, plants that keep growing and producing until frost kills them, rather than determinate varieties that produce one big harvest and stop. Varieties like Sun Gold, Sweet Million, Black Cherry, or Super Sweet 100 are indeterminate powerhouses. Cherry tomatoes start producing about 60 to 70 days after transplanting and continue nonstop for 3 to 4 months or longer in warm climates. You'll be harvesting handfuls of tomatoes daily, sometimes multiple times per day at peak production. The flavor is incredible, sweet, complex, and infinitely better than anything you buy at the store. Growing tips for maximum production. Start with healthy transplants or grow from seed indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. Plant in full sun with rich, well-draining soil amended with compost. Provide sturdy support, a tall cage or trellis at least 6 feet high, because these plants get massive. Water consistently, about 1 to 2 inches per week, and fertilize every 2 weeks with a balanced fertilizer once fruiting starts. Prune suckers selectively to improve air circulation but leave most growth intact to maximize fruiting surface. Key benefit. The continuous harvest means you always have fresh tomatoes from midsummer through fall. You're not dealing with 50 pounds of tomatoes ripening the same week like with determinate varieties. The steady production is perfect for fresh eating, and excess can be frozen, dried, or made into sauce. Caution. Cherry tomatoes can suffer from blossom end rot if calcium is deficient or watering is inconsistent. Maintain even soil moisture and add calcium if needed. They're also susceptible to late blight and other tomato diseases. Plant disease-resistant varieties when possible and avoid overhead watering to minimize fungal problems. Plant number 2, zucchini, the overwhelming abundance maker. Zucchini is legendary for producing more than you can possibly use. One plant, just one, can produce 25 to 30 pounds of zucchini over a 6 to 8 week period. Plant 2 or 3 and you'll be begging neighbors to take excess. There's a reason people joke about locking their cars during zucchini season so neighbors don't leave bags of zucchini inside. The production is ridiculous. During peak season, you'll harvest multiple zucchini every single day. They go from small, tender fruits to baseball bat-sized in what feels like overnight. The key is harvesting when fruits are 6 to 8 inches long for best flavor and texture. Growing tips for maximum production. Direct seed or transplant after all danger of frost has passed. Zucchini needs full sun, rich soil with plenty of compost, and consistent water. Space plants 3 to 4 feet apart because they get huge. Mulch heavily around plants to conserve moisture and suppress weeds. Once fruiting starts, fertilize weekly with liquid fertilizer to support the massive production. Harvest daily once production begins. This keeps plants producing. If you let fruits get oversized, production slows or stops as the plant focuses energy on maturing seeds rather than producing new fruits. Key benefit: zucchini is incredibly versatile. Use it fresh in salads, grilled, sautéed, or spiralized as noodles. Bake it into breads, muffins, and cakes. Freeze shredded zucchini in measured portions for year-round baking. Ferment it, pickle it, or dehydrate it. You'll have so much you'll discover creative ways to use it. Caution: zucchini is susceptible to squash vine borers, which tunnel into stems and kill plants. Monitor plants weekly for entry holes and frass, sawdust-like material, near the base. If you find borers, slice the stem lengthwise. Remove the larvae and bury the wounded section with soil to encourage rooting. Powdery mildew is also common late in the season, but by then production is winding down anyway. Plant number 3. Kale, the cold-hardy cut-and-come. Again, kale is a nutritional powerhouse and an incredibly productive plant that keeps giving for months. A single plant can provide continuous harvests from spring through fall, and in mild climates, straight through winter. We're talking 6 to 9 months of production from one plant. The secret is the cut-and-come-again harvest method. Instead of cutting the entire plant, you harvest outer leaves when they're 6 to 8 inches long, leaving the central growing point intact. The plant keeps producing new leaves from the center, giving you continuous harvests weekly for months. Kale gets sweeter after frost, so fall and winter harvests are actually superior to summer ones. While other vegetables are dying from cold, kale thrives, sometimes surviving temperatures down to 10 or 15 degrees Fahrenheit with minimal protection. Growing tips for maximum production: start seeds indoors 6 weeks before the last frost or direct seed in spring, and again in midsummer for fall harvest. Kale tolerates part shade but produces best in full sun. It needs consistent moisture and rich soil with plenty of nitrogen. Side dress with compost or fertilize every 3 to 4 weeks to support continuous leaf production. For fall crops, plant in midsummer, 60 to 70 days before your first fall frost. These plants produce through fall and winter, even in cold climates, giving you fresh greens when nothing else grows. Key benefit: kale at the grocery store is expensive, often $4 to $6 per bunch. A single plant produces that much every week for months, easily providing $50 to $70 worth of greens over its lifespan. Kale is also nutritionally dense, packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, so you're improving your health while saving money. Caution: cabbage worms and aphids love kale. Inspect plants weekly and hand-pick caterpillars or spray with BT, organic biological insecticide, if infestations are heavy. For aphids, a strong spray of water dislodges them. Also, don't harvest more than 1/3 of the plant at once, or you'll stress it and slow production. Take a few outer leaves per harvest and let the plant recover. Plant number 4. Green beans. The protein-packed space-saver green beans, specifically pole beans, are phenomenally productive in small spaces. Pole beans grow vertically up supports, producing pounds of beans from just a few square feet of ground space. A 10-foot row of pole beans can yield 25 to 30 pounds of beans over a 2 to 3 month harvest period. Bush beans are productive too, but pole beans outproduce them by 2 to 3 times and harvest over a longer period. Bush beans give you 1 or 2 big harvests, then production stops. Pole beans keep flowering and producing until frost kills them. Beans are also nitrogen fixers, meaning they pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it in the soil through their roots, actually improving soil for subsequent crops. You're growing food and building soil fertility simultaneously. Growing tips for maximum production: direct seed pole beans after soil has warmed to at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold soil causes poor germination and rot. Provide sturdy supports, trellises, teepees, or netting, at least 6 to 8 feet tall. Plant seeds 2 to 3 inches apart at the base of supports. Beans need full sun and consistent moisture, especially during flowering and pod development. They don't need heavy fertilization because they fix their own nitrogen, but a light application of compost at planting helps establish strong plants. Harvest beans when pods are firm but before seeds bulge, usually when pods are 4 to 6 inches long. Daily harvesting during peak production keeps plants flowering and setting new pods. If you let pods mature and dry on the plant, production stops. Key benefit: fresh green beans are expensive, and the quality at grocery stores is often poor, limp, and damaged. Homegrown beans are crisp, flavorful, and picked at peak freshness. They freeze beautifully too. Blanch them for 3 minutes, shock in ice water, drain, and freeze in portions. You'll have garden-fresh beans all winter. Caution: bean beetles, both Mexican bean beetles and Japanese beetles, can defoliate plants quickly. Monitor for beetles and handpick or spray with organic insecticides if populations explode. Beans are also susceptible to fungal diseases in humid conditions. Avoid overhead watering and provide good air circulation by spacing plants properly and trellising vertically. Plant number 5, Swiss chard, the attractive, heat-tolerant greens. Swiss chard is criminally underrated. This leafy green is as productive as kale, more heat-tolerant, and honestly, more attractive with its colorful stems in shades of red, orange, yellow, and white. A few plants provide continuous greens from spring through fall, and like kale, it survives light frosts and keeps producing. Chard uses the same cut-and-come-again harvest method. Cut outer leaves when they're 6 to 8 inches long, leaving the center intact, and the plant keeps producing new growth for months. A single plant can easily produce 20 to 30 pounds of greens over a full season. The flavor is milder than kale, slightly earthy and spinach-like, making it more versatile in cooking. Use it raw in salads when young, sauté it, add it to soups, or use it in place of spinach in any recipe. Growing tips for maximum production: start seeds indoors 4 weeks before the last frost or direct seed as soon as soil can be worked. Chard tolerates part shade but produces better in full sun. It needs consistent moisture and rich soil. Fertilize every 3 to 4 weeks with liquid fertilizer or side dress with compost. Chard handles heat better than most greens, continuing production through summer when lettuce and spinach bolt. This makes it a perfect bridge crop, filling the gap between cool season spring greens and fall crops. Key benefit: chard is expensive at stores, often sold in small bunches for several dollars. A few plants provide more greens than you can eat for months at a fraction of the cost. It's also beautiful enough to grow in ornamental borders, providing food and aesthetics simultaneously. Caution: leaf miners sometimes tunnel through chard leaves, creating white squiggly trails that are unsightly but don't affect flavor. Simply cut off affected leaves and destroy them. Don't compost, to prevent the fly larvae from completing their life cycle. The plant will produce new, unblemished leaves. Also, chard leaves get tough if allowed to grow too large. Harvest at 6 to 8 inches for best tenderness. Plant number 6, peppers, the long-season heavy producer. Peppers, both sweet and hot varieties, are slow starters but incredibly productive once they hit their stride. A single pepper plant can produce 25 to 50 peppers over a season, and in warm climates with long growing seasons, production can reach 75 to 100 peppers per plant. Sweet bell peppers are grocery store expensive, often $2 to $3 per pepper. Hot peppers are even pricier. Growing your own saves substantial money while providing better flavor than anything you can buy. The key to maximum pepper production is patience. Peppers take 90 to 120 days from transplanting to first harvest, but once they start producing, they don't stop until frost. The longer your growing season, the more productive peppers become. Growing tips for maximum production: start seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost. Peppers need warm soil to transplant. Wait until nighttime temperatures consistently stay above 55 degrees. Plant in full sun with rich, well-draining soil. Mulch heavily to maintain even soil moisture. Fertilize when plants start flowering with low nitrogen, high phosphorus fertilizer to encourage fruiting over foliage growth. Water consistently, about 1 inch per week, more during peak heat. Inconsistent watering causes blossom end rot and cracked fruits. For maximum yield, harvest peppers as soon as they reach usable size. This encourages the plant to set more fruits. Waiting for all peppers to fully color slows production significantly because the plant diverts energy to ripening rather than setting new fruits. Key benefit: peppers freeze excellently. Wash, core, slice, or dice, and freeze in portions. They're perfect for stir-fries, soups, and sauces all winter. Hot peppers can be dried, smoked for chipotle-style peppers, or fermented into hot sauce. One summer's pepper harvest provides year-round supply. Caution: peppers are sensitive to temperature extremes. In heat above 95 degrees, flowers drop without setting fruit. In cold below 55 degrees, growth stops. Time your planting for optimal temperatures. Also, pepper plants are brittle and break easily in wind. Stake or cage plants for support, especially when heavily laden with fruit. Plant number 7. Herbs, basil and parsley as high-value crops. I'm combining two herbs here because together they represent incredible value and production. Fresh herbs at grocery stores are absurdly expensive, often $3 to $5 for a tiny plastic container that provides maybe 1 or 2 meals worth. Growing your own is a money printing machine. Basil is a summer annual that produces continuously from late spring through fall if harvested correctly. A few plants provide more basil than most families can use, perfect for pesto, caprese salads, Thai curries, and Italian dishes. Harvest by pinching off the top sets of leaves regularly, which forces the plant to branch and become bushier, producing even more leaves. A single well-maintained basil plant can easily produce 10 to 15 pounds of leaves over a season. Parsley is a biennial that produces heavily in year 1. It tolerates cool weather, producing from spring through fall and sometimes through winter in mild climates. Both flat leaf and curly varieties are productive. Like basil, regular harvesting encourages continuous production. Cut outer stems at the base, leaving the center growing point intact. Growing tips for maximum production. Start herbs from seed indoors 6 weeks before the last frost or buy transplants. Plant in full sun with well-draining soil. Herbs generally prefer lean conditions over heavily fertilized soil, which creates lush foliage with less flavor. For basil, pinch growing tips weekly once plants are 6 inches tall. This prevents flowering, which makes leaves bitter and stops production. If flower buds appear, pinch them immediately. With proper pinching, basil produces until frost. For parsley, harvest outer stems once plants are established, usually 6 to 8 weeks after transplanting. Take no more than 1/3 of the plant at once. Parsley grows slowly initially but accelerates as roots establish. Key benefit: the cost savings are enormous. A single basil plant provides $50 or more worth of fresh basil over the season compared to grocery store prices. Excess herbs can be frozen in ice cube trays with olive oil, dried, or made into pestos and sauces that freeze beautifully. You'll have herbs year-round from one summer's harvest. Caution: basil is frost-sensitive and dies at the first hint of cold. In fall, harvest everything before frost hits. Make massive batches of pesto and freeze them for winter. Parsley can get aphids on new growth. Spray with water to dislodge them or tolerate them. They don't usually cause serious damage. Also, basil is susceptible to fungal diseases in humid conditions. Provide good air circulation and avoid overhead watering. Section 8. The real numbers, production, and cost savings. Let me break down the actual production and cost savings from these 7 crops so you can see the real impact. Cherry tomatoes. 3 plants producing 75 pounds per plant equals 225 pounds total. At $4 per pound grocery store price, that's $900 worth of tomatoes. Zucchini. 4 plants producing 25 pounds each equals 100 pounds total. At $3 per pound, that's $300 saved. Kale. 5 plants producing continuously for 6 months, approximately 50 pounds total. At $5 per pound for organic kale, that's $250 saved. Green beans. 10-foot row producing 30 pounds. At $4 per pound for fresh beans, that's $120 saved. Swiss chard. 4 plants producing 25 pounds each equals 100 pounds. At $4 per pound, that's $400 saved. Peppers. 10 plants producing 30 peppers each equals 300 peppers. At $2 per pepper, that's $600 saved. Herbs. 6 basil and 6 parsley plants providing year-round supply equals approximately $200 worth compared to buying fresh herbs weekly. Total annual savings, approximately $2,770 from just these 7 crops grown in a modestly sized garden. That's not including the superior quality, better nutrition from freshly harvested produce, reduced transportation costs and environmental impact, and the satisfaction of food independence. These numbers are conservative. With optimal growing conditions and extended seasons using row covers or season extension techniques, production can be significantly higher. Section 9. How much space you actually need. You don't need a massive garden to grow these crops. Here's the approximate space required. Cherry tomatoes. 3 plants need 12 to 15 square feet total if trellised vertically. Use cages or stakes and you're utilizing vertical space efficiently. Zucchini. 4 plants need 32 to 40 square feet. They spread, but you can trellis them vertically to reduce footprint by half. Kale. 5 plants need 10 square feet at 18-inch spacing. Green beans. 10-foot row needs 10 square feet of ground space but grows vertically on a trellis. Swiss chard. 4 plants need 6 square feet at 18-inch spacing. Peppers. 10 plants need 20 square feet at 2-foot spacing. Herbs. 12 plants total. Basil and parsley need 12 square feet. Total space required, approximately 100 to 120 square feet, which is a 10 by 10 or 10 by 12 foot garden bed. That's it. That's the space needed to produce nearly $3,000 worth of food annually. If you have a small yard, balcony with containers, or even a sunny patio, you can grow these crops. They're perfectly suited to container growing, raised beds, or in-ground gardens. The point is, you don't need acreage to achieve food independence with vegetables. A small, intensively managed space produces incredible results. Section 10. How to get started this season. Ready to stop buying vegetables? Here's your action plan. Plan your space, measure your available growing area, and sketch a rough layout. Decide whether you're using in-ground beds, raised beds, or containers. Order or buy seeds and transplants. For tomatoes, peppers, and herbs, transplants save time unless you want to start from seed indoors. For beans, zucchini, kale, and chard, direct seeding is easy and economical. Prepare your soil. Amend with compost, aged manure, or quality planting mix. These productive crops are heavy feeders that need rich soil to deliver maximum yields. Install supports before planting. Trellises for tomatoes and beans, cages for peppers. Installing supports after plants are established risks damaging roots. Plant in succession. Don't plant everything at once. Stagger plantings by 2 to 3 weeks to extend harvest periods and avoid overwhelming gluts. Commit to consistent care. These crops aren't difficult, but they need regular watering, occasional fertilizing, and consistent harvesting to maintain production. Start small and expand. If you're new to vegetable gardening, start with 3 or 4 of these crops, master them, then add more. Success builds momentum and confidence. Track your harvests. Keep a simple log of what you harvest and estimate the grocery store equivalent cost. Seeing the savings in real numbers is incredibly motivating and helps you refine your garden plan for next season. You can start this today, not next year. Even mid-season plantings of fast crops like beans and zucchini will produce before frost in most climates. And there you have it, the 7 plants that eliminated my grocery store vegetable runs and save me thousands of dollars every year. Grow these and you'll never look at store-bought produce the same way. Thanks for watching this food independence guide. If this video inspired you to grow your own food and save serious money, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel for more productive gardening strategies that build real food security and slash your grocery bills. Comment below and tell me which of these 7 crops you're most excited to grow. I'll see you in the next video with even more ways to become food independent. Happy growing!